Philip Ingram, I'd like to say, is joining me. You're long past getting all that stuff.
Long past it.
Philip Ingram, the former senior military intelligence officer. I have to say, the thing is, no matter how sure you are, you start being very, very unsure about an hour before the results come in. That's for certain.
Oh, I was very unsure after I'd finished my exams because I treated them like my O-levels. I did O-levels.
Yes, I did O-levels.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
the annoying thing is, half the people in that control room, they're all going to be going, what's an O-level?
Well,
You're all going to get a slap after the show.
Yeah, and I did as much work as I'd done for my O-levels, and I hadn't realised that A-levels were a level up.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, the amount of work these youngsters expect to do now is off the scale. That said, there's always grade inflation, and there still is. I know it's not as bad as it was during lockdown when, just give everybody a grade A. But congratulations to everyone, whatever grades you have got.
Yeah.
They will be celebrating tonight in the Hartley-Brewer household, though. I have to say. Anyway,
it should have started already with a champagne breakfast.
I'm just a little bit of a smug mummy today. What can I say? But anyway, I hope you got good results in your home. Let's talk about whether or not anyone will be looking smug after tomorrow's summit in Alaska. Chosen to be 8-hour flight for Donald Trump from Washington, 9-hour flight for Vladimir Putin from Moscow. It's chosen on American territory. Of course, couldn't have Putin on European territory because he's a wanted war criminal for his events in Ukraine. But this summit is taking place tomorrow. Lot of anxiety, not just in Kyiv, but in actually the capitals of Europe as well. We've seen President Zelensky visit Friedrich Merz in Germany, and today he's already arrived at Downing Street to be greeted by Keir Starmer. A lot of, again, we know, our Prime Minister is very good at the photo call and everything. It's action that people want. Yep. But showing support to Zelensky and support for Zelensky's position, with the big fear, of course, that Donald Trump wants peace, because he said he would get peace in Ukraine within a day. Not happening. That was January. It's already August. But that he is basically going to be wound round the finger of Vladimir Putin. He's a very, very wily figure. And that Donald Trump is going to kind of, just basically give away the house and the kitchen sink in return for peace. Tell us your hopes, fears, concerns about what's going to happen in that meeting tomorrow.
Well, Putin feels emboldened because he feels as if he's won already by getting the meeting. Not only getting the meeting, but it's going to happen in Alaska. Alaska used to belong to Russia before the Russians sold it to the Americans. And Donald Trump, in his speech talking about it, said he was going to Russia to meet Vladimir Putin. So he's on the back foot already. Putin feels he's at the top table and he feels he's winning on the ground. So he is not going to be in any mood to give any concessions.
Why should he? If there's this big question mark of whether or not the US will actually continue to provide enough sort of financial aid for the European countries to buy the military components and the military hardware to send to Ukraine, if Putin thinks that is all questionable, and let's face it, a lot of European economies, we've got our latest growth figures here in the UK, in the doldrums, Germany really struggling as well. They're putting all this extra money into military, but think about the West. We get very weary with wars. We're not very good with body bags. We don't like it when wars drag on. The media gets a bit bored. The politicians get a bit bored. The public, go, peace is better than war, isn't it? Well, yes, and it would have been in 1939 as well, wouldn't it? But it's a question of what kind of peace, isn't it?
Exactly. And Western countries are beginning to wake up to the fact that you look at the Russian economy and the statistics look much better than Europe. The underlying economy.
War economies do very well.
Exactly. The underlying economy is terrible, but they're realizing that actually investing in your defence industrial base, underpinning your manufacturing, increasing manufacturing output, with an increasingly unstable world, there is a global market for military hardware, military capability, and therefore that's going to be good for Europe whenever other economic pointers are not in the right direction. But there's a real fear that Putin's not going to give anything. Trump wants a deal, and everything that he talks about, he's talked about offering Putin access to rare earth minerals.
Yeah, and they're largely in the east of the country. They're in the Donbass region, the industrial region of Ukraine.
They are, but he doesn't know them. He's got an agreement with Ukraine that at some stage in the future they'll extract them. Russia's got access to as many rare earth minerals underneath Russian territory that it needs. Yeah. So,
but those rare earth minerals under Ukrainian soil are not for a US president to give away.
Correct.
Now you can understand Zelensky's concern, and he's this frantic, diplomatic tour, and there's lots of Zoom meetings with all the European leaders yesterday, and we had this apparently meeting of the coalition of the willing. We've not been told who the willing countries are yet, which is always a bit worrying. We're looking nothing close to, say, the coalition of the willing against Afghanistan, for instance, after the 9/11 attacks. But you only need, realistically, you just need the countries that got the firepower. But here's the thing. If it depends what the priorities are. Now, Donald Trump thinks that peace at any price is worth it. It's weird because he doesn't seem to think that for Israel and Gaza.
No, exactly.
We've only had the same perspective. He also prioritises America. There is an understandable reason why America would prioritise US priorities, such as what's going on with China. Bringing Russia away from China. Ukraine is of less importance than, say, Taiwan and control of the South China Seas. There are different priorities there, and he's entitled to act in America's national interest. But he also is known to act in his own personal interest, and that will be his own personal self-glorification that he ended the war in Ukraine. But there's also the thing where he thinks that everybody can be bought. Donald Trump he knows he's got a price, and he believes that everybody can be bought at a price. He is the Bonnie Blue of international politics, that everyone has their price. Now, of course, we know that Vladimir Putin is a kleptocrat. He's, by all accounts, the richest man in the world. Forget Elon Musk. Putin's got double that. It's just all hidden away. Swings best banks accounts, properties and yachts around the world. He is a fabulously rich man. He doesn't need more money. What I think that Donald Trump won't understand is that Vladimir Putin, this is about his nationalistic pride.
Yes, status.
This is the status. This is about what he believes. He genuinely believes the end of the Soviet Union is the worst thing that ever happened, that Ukraine is not only should be brought back into Russia, that Ukrainian is Russian.
Yes.
It should be under his domination. And he does not care about human life at all, least of all Ukrainians, but doesn't even care about Russian loss of life. We've seen, something like 1 million men who have been maimed and injured, not killed, as Donald Trump has always claimed, and also 100,000 plus deaths probably combining both sides. This is a very bloody, very horrible war. But this is the thing: can Donald Trump negotiate with Vladimir Putin when he fundamentally doesn't, as far as we can tell, and his aide, Steve Witkoff, they don't get where Vladimir Putin's coming from.
So he can't negotiate. If you don't understand the parameters, and you're not on the same sheet of paper, and you're thinking of things from a completely different perspective, you're not in a good position to start negotiating. And that's what's worrying not just European leaders, but global leaders. So the coalition of the willing, the main players in Europe, UK, France, Germany, but we've also got Scandinavian countries that are in there.
Who have a lot more military capability than many people think.
They do. And the Prime Minister of Finland had a big say in the phone call with Donald Trump yesterday. But we've also got Southeast Asian leaders with Japan, Australia, as part of the coalition of the willing as well. And it's a coalition of political willing. Yes, they've got military capability, but that's a second order, third order question, putting military capability
Well,
in the
we're
ground.
going to have to put our military hardware, our boots, where our mouths are?
Hopefully not. If Vladimir Putin gets his way, then at some stage in the future, in the not too distant future, yes, we will, because there will be a larger European war and potentially a global conflict.
Why do you say that? Because lots of people say, look, we shouldn't get involved. It's not our war. It's not our problem. We need to end this war, give away the territory. Putin's won. We're not, unless we're willing to go to war and remove him from Crimea and the Donbass region. He's won that. Let's just let de facto borders. Ukraine can get on with what the 80% of the country they've got left. Why do you think that won't lead to a long-term peace?
Putin's got expansionist policies, and it's not just Putin, it's all of those
he
that are
has said
supporting
them out
him.
loud. It's not like we're guessing. He's written and given speeches saying
and
this.
he wants the old Soviet Union back, with him as the Tsar at the centre of it. And of course, large parts of the old Soviet Union or the Warsaw Pact countries are now firmly focused on the West. They're part of NATO. They're everything else.
Baltic states, Poland.
Yes, he's got his ambitions for that, and he
won't stop.
And he's not going to stop.
If there were a ceasefire, and say there was a de facto recognition, if not in law recognition at the United Nations, that he has control of large parts of the Donbass region that he already controls and keeps Crimea, which he's had since 2014, but Ukraine was given a proper security guarantee, as in a proper one steel cap boot over those lines, and all-out war happens, full, like NATO, America, Britain, France, everybody, we will, and if necessary, put our own boots on the ground. Would that be a ceasefire that was worth having?
Well, Zelensky's proposed something similar to that. He did that before Donald Trump even got inaugurated. Zelensky came out and said very clearly that he recognised that Ukraine could not take the Eastern Territory back by military means alone.
In which case...
And therefore he said we'll park that for diplomatic solutions in the future. So freezing of the front lines at a current state. That's been offered to Vladimir Putin and he's refused it. So he wants more. He wants the bits that he hasn't taken, and he wants them to be given
Trump
to him.
was talking about a land swap, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Look, I mean, I'm not an expert on what you most of my audience, I'm going to guess, unless you're ex-military, and I'd love to hear from you if you are, or current military, give us a call. Philip Ingram is an expert, and it does seem to me to be very, very, very clear that what Putin wants, the West cannot agree to, but Trump might agree to, and then we are in very difficult territory.
Yeah. And this is why we're getting a single voice coming out of Europe. You know, it used to be we'd have Francois Macron of France sniping at Donald Trump, we'd have Chancellor Merz sniping at Donald Trump. We've now got everyone coming with a single voice.
That's the thing, they're not just negotiating with Putin, they're also having to deal with Donald Trump's man-baby ego.
Well,
and on this, he has got a man-baby ego. We need to give him something that he thinks, he wants to have this summit and wants to walk away with a victory. Now, again, he had that big summit, didn't he, with Kim Jong-un. Walked away with nothing.
Yes, exactly.
He walked away with nothing, and he still came to victory. Let him play along and claim what he wants to claim. But the important thing is, the Ukrainian people cannot shed blood for the last 3 years, 3.5 years, for nothing. And for Vladimir Putin to get the signal that, yeah, if you just wait it out for a few years, you are going to win and you're going to be able to take more territory. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because a lot of people I know think I'm a warmonger for saying this. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. If we agree to a peace deal now, what terms do you think would be acceptable? I want to know, and I've always I always ask, same when it comes to Israel, what would be a proportional response if a country did that to us? Same with Ukraine. What deal would you, if you were Ukrainian, what deal would you agree to? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Philip, I'm going to come back to you lots of times on this, but let's also talk about Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Justice Secretary. He's been very much on the front foot on these issues of crime, but also of crime from migrants, illegal migration, and it's his extraordinary thought for the day, which is the most horrific item on a weekday morning on Radio 4. It's a flagship BBC Radio 4 show. I alternate between this and Mike's show because I need to know what they're doing on Radio 4. Also, it gets my blood boiling enough. I thought for the day I can never sit through. It's woke for the day.
Yes.
It's just woke for the day. And it's not just like Christian or Hindu or whatever leaders. It's always the most woke, pointless nonsense. Well, on this occasion, they decided to, and they're pre-recorded, but they recorded it as live. Karish Kandia, who's the founder of a refugee charity, that wasn't mentioned. I wonder if they'd have someone on who was protesting against the asylum hotels for equality. I don't know. But he basically just accused Robert Jenrick of xenophobia. And he said the Shadow Justice Secretary had fuelled fear of the stranger by saying illegal migrants made him fearful for his daughter's safety. He said the technical name for this is xenophobia. Robert Jenrick's hit back. BBC withdrew the programme, edited it, took that out of the recording of it. But isn't that typical that would get through? Yeah. No one would notice it. Yeah. But also, Thought for the Day is supposed to be 2 or 3 minutes of no politics. Yeah. You're not supposed to. I mean, they put the politics in the weather now. Climate change. They put politics in the sport. Oh, take the knee, rainbow. All they do. Like, where is there no politics? But we know, politics is now imbued in many of the religions in this country. But it's what is always amazing. It's same as the death to the IDF chant from the band Bob Vylan at Glastonbury. Yep. The reason why they didn't pull it is because they didn't notice it, because it agrees with their worldview in the BBC. Yeah,
and this calls into question the producers, the editors at the BBC. And
this is provided by religious programming.
It doesn't matter.
No one listens to it first.
They've still got producers and editors, and they need to be held to account, and there needs to be accountability in this.
And no one ever is. No one's ever sacked. No one's ever disciplined.
And Robert Jenrick is completely right whenever he said that he fears for his daughters, and his daughters fear when they're out of the strangers that are on the asylum
Everyone I know
seekers.
feels exactly the same way.
I do, and I'm pretty well built, and walking past some of the the asylum hotels, I fear for my safety and would not want anyone close to me to be walking past them by themselves, because it's sinister. It really is sinister.
Well, we saw the pictures that were front page of the papers yesterday with the migrants all running to the boats. Not a single woman or child among them, I have to say. Very sadly, it's feared that a baby has drowned, by the way, in the channel. Another capsizing. But again, sorry, if you're a parent and you're in a safe country like France and you put a baby on an overcrowded dinghy,
I think that was Mediterranean.
Apologies, you're right, the Mediterranean. But either way, again, you know,
it is shocking.
Sorry, you should be prosecuted. I think it's you and I would be prosecuted if we did it with our child.
Exactly.
It is just extraordinary. Let's also just briefly also talk about the growth levels. Economic growth slowed to 0.3% between April and June, but it was better than expected. Hooray! But it's still a slowdown compared to the first quarter of the country. Of this year. I mean, people are celebrating 0.3% growth. I mean, this is an absolute joke, isn't it?
A complete joke. At least it's growth. But, you know, I remember in the election campaign, you know, Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, Rachel of accounts, were turning around and saying that everything was based on 2 to 2.5% growth, and all the policies were costed to, and they were going to get it up there because they knew how to do everything, and they smash the gangs and they do everything else. We're nowhere near that. So none of the things that they promised this country in the election campaign, they can deliver by their own figures.
Are you saying Labour lied in the manifesto? That's shocking. That's a shocking thing to say.
Don't worry, the producers will have dumped that so that we don't
exactly,
get
absolutely. So I don't think you're libeling them. I don't think they'll sue. Just finally, let's talk about A-level results. Record numbers of UK students accepted onto university courses. Message went out yesterday, I think, or a couple of days ago, I think, and a lot of parents with 18-year-olds were sharing this information that actually, if you missed your grades by one, there was a very good chance you were going to get into your university of choice. First choice, but 82% show that of those holding an offer who received their decision this morning have been placed in their first choice university, same proportion as last year, but you got a better chance in the clearing. There is this whole thing that lots of universities now offering. We'll give you money off your tuition fees. We'll give you 2 or 3 grand towards this or that. There is a worry. A lot of universities advertising. They're desperate for places because they want your money. They don't care whether you graduate. They don't care whether you actually last the course. They just want that 9.5 grand that you have to pay. I do worry though that the market has turned on its head and is the wrong way round. That certainly the market at the lower end of universities, not the top-notch ones, which will always be in demand, that actually they will take anybody. We've seen some kids are getting in, on E grades because they have diversity targets, for goodness sake. I don't think if you've got E grades at A-level that university is for you. And there are plenty of other ways of being very successful. And I know people who've got rubbish, I mean literally rubbish A-levels, who've done a foundation course and then gone on to do really well. But what's happened is they've been failed by their schools, and then once they had proper teaching, then they did well. And I mean, my goodness, we need more of those foundation courses to get people who have been failed by the schools. But wouldn't the ideal thing be if they weren't failed by their schools in the first place?
Well, yes, but we have to recognise that some people are academic, some people aren't academic. Exactly. Some people at 17, 18 are not academic in the slightest, but will go on when they're 20, 30 to be professors.
But it's not. These are completely different lives. I know lots of people who've got like firsts from Oxbridge. I wouldn't trust them to go up the road and buy a loaf of bread. They're genuinely incompetent people in daily life.
And I remember seeing some statistics where a good percentage of the board of Rolls-Royce had come up through an apprenticeship scheme and they hadn't gone through university. So going to university is not the be-all and end-all.
I would actually say, unless you've got a very specific thing you want to do that requires a university degree, or you are academic, and I would advise against it. And get into the world of work, get your training, find what you want to do, and you can always go back if you want to.
And people forget that universities are businesses. They're not there just to provide education. They're there to make money for the universities and as a business. And part of that making money is getting the student numbers through the door.
And that's what they want to do. A lot of them now, that is all it is, and they really don't care. And you need to look at how many people doing that particular course, that particular university, go on to get a job in that field. Very, very few at some universities, and a huge number of people who are dropping out. And you're dropping out. You've not got a degree. You've missed a couple of years of work. By then what 30 grand in debt plus. I mean, You know, there are lots of different choices available now, and I really think that is really important to remember. But, you know, good luck to everybody. Hope you got the grades you wanted. Hope you can do what you want to do. But again, here's the other thing. As Jeremy Clarkson always points out, you know, it's not the be-all or end-all. It really, really isn't.
Exactly.
I did a speech at a sixth form college some years back, and I said to all these students who are all going to get grade A's and grade A stars, I said, I hate to tell you, in about a year's time, no one will ever ask you what your grades were. And they were looking at me in absolute horror. The parents are all laughing. But anyway, Philip Ingram, more from you throughout the show.